Eleftheria, you can introduce yourself and take the stage. So,
okay, I will also share my screen. Okay. All right, so my session is when you think there is no time for learning or coding. But before we get started, let me introduce myself just another time. So my name is Eleftheria, and I'm a front-end developer and app developer. I'm also a content creator, which means that I like to create content either for social media platforms like Instagram and Twitter, or for blogging purposes, or just videos on my YouTube channel. You can find me on my social media or even on my email. I'm very active there, and if you send me something, probably I will answer to you. So if you have like any questions and they're not answered today, feel free to find me there as well. That was a short introduction about me, but I will continue talking about myself in a bit as we will start this session. The things that we are about to see are my coding journey, so how I got into tech, what was the process, what did I have to learn, why I had to learn those things, some failures, but also some success stories. Then we will continue with tips and techniques of habit formation. So why it is important to build a habit and how it can help you as a developer or more general as a person in tech. And last but not least, we will see ways to deal with frustration and stress, as it is something I believe we all go through in our careers. Okay, starting with my coding journey. I did graduated from an engineering university, which means I did a lot of maths, a lot of physics, but not a lot of coding. And while I was in the university and when I graduated from it, I was like super happy. The excitement was there. But then there was like a slightly problem. I wasn't very sure of what I wanted to do. This is usually a big problem. I had already done an internship here in Greece, and in that internship, I had worked as a front-end developer. I like that part, so I kind of knew that probably I want to work with that. After my time here in Greece, I also had the opportunity to do another internship, and this time I decided to do one in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and I decided to go through the process of being a front-end developer. As I was there, everything was going like smooth and nice, but I also realized that I didn't have all the knowledge that I needed in order to become a front-end developer, because my goal was to end this internship, which was like a small one, and then find a job. That didn't happen very easily. Sorry for that, but I will explain myself. Every morning back then and still now, after many years, I used to read articles. Like one of the first things that I do every morning is reading tech articles. And this is usually like through platforms such as Medium. Now I use Hashnote, but back then that didn't exist. And other like platforms. And one day I found an article called 100 Days of Code and the Benefits of It. And it was written by the creator of the challenge 100 Days of Code. Maybe you're not familiar with this challenge, but I will explain you what it is. The only thing that I knew is that this is something I need to do. This is something that it will help me build my skills, help me like build a portfolio, build some projects, and finally and hopefully find a job. So in this challenge, which again, I will repeat it, it's called 100 Days of Code. You had to code for 100 days, so every single day for 100 days, for at least 1 hour. And everything that you were coding, you would upload it then on GitHub. And that was actually very good, because back then I didn't know how to use Git and GitHub. But in that way, and by uploading everything, I would slowly start building a small portfolio, which was also something that I was missing. And that was the second part. The third one was to go in Twitter, use the hashtag of 100 days of code, and then encourage other people either to take part in or give them feedback in what they were asking or ask feedback about myself. At first, I was a little bit nervous. I was a little bit scared because I wasn't using the social media at all. And I was just a newbie. My knowledge and my skills were not in a very good level. So again, like being on Twitter and working with social media, it was also like a new path for me. But that was the three main things that I had to do for this challenge. Okay, so I took part in the challenge, but what did I code? And a lot of people actually started asking me, yeah, you took part in this challenge, but now what? What are you doing? For me, the good thing is that there are many sources to learn, so that was not a problem. There are sources, some like, as I mentioned here, like online education platforms, things such as Udemy, Udacity, Coursera, of course, YouTube. There are online communities. You can find Discord servers, Slack channels. You can find Stack Overflow, and there is like literally everything. There are other coding challenges, not only the 100 days of code that I mentioned, but other challenges like daily CSS images, JavaScript 30s. And in these challenges, sometimes they send you an email every day. And in this email, it is included a link or a new source to learn. So it's also very helpful. And of course, reading magazines and books, it's something that can help you in your path. From the other hand, a lot of people also ask me about inspiration and motivation and how do you know what you want to do and stuff like that. For me, that was also not a very big deal because you can read blogs, you can find your favorite developers online, you can go to their blog, see what they're up to, follow them on social media, and of course go to meetups and conferences. But I'm pretty sure you already do that since you are here in this event. Then there is the other part. What are you going to learn? As I mentioned, I wanted to be a front-end developer. And I was reading through the lists and for the people that were looking for front-end developers, and I was trying to figure out what most people need and what are the basic things. Since I already had done a couple of internships, I knew pretty much what was the base. And from there, I could always build on. So the first three things that I had to learn was HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which is something that you are learning if you are in this event as well. The next thing that I wanted to learn is how to use Git and GitHub. That was a core step because, again, it was needing for the challenge and because I would see the other developers at my internship that they were using these things all the time, but I didn't know how to do that. The third thing was to also learn how to use the Chrome developer tools. Again, I was seeing the other developers using them, but I was quite afraid of them. And the last part that I set for myself was to learn a framework that was AngularJS. And if you were here from the start of this conversation, we already talked a little bit about that, but I was working with AngularJS, not anymore. And the other thing was to learn a data visualization library. I learned D3JS, it's a data visualization library. That was a pretty good decision because it led me to my very first job. So what did I build? I will show you a few examples of the things that I built, and keep in mind that these were my very first projects. So I started with HTML and CSS. That was my first goal. And I took part in another challenge called Daily CSS Images. In this challenge for 50 days, you had to build something using only HTML and CSS. So all the images that you see right now are actually built only with CSS. And I think that my first sketches or my first examples are very simple, but I also think that as the time passed, I learned how to use better CSS. My other goal was to learn JavaScript, and in order to learn JavaScript, I used an online source, FreeCodeCamp. It's a free platform to learn, and the part with the JavaScript is pretty good. So I started building some games there. So I built this like tic-tac-toe game and this Simon Says game. Again, the inspiration is coming from FreeCodeCamp. I continued a little bit with learning AngularJS. And then the final step for this challenge was to learn D3GS. So again, I started building some small things and some games. After I finished that challenge, I also worked with some other challenges, but also one of the last things that I did was to take part in daily UI, because my interests also had changed a bit. I was not anymore interested only in front-end development, but I started getting interested in UI design as well, because as a front-end developers, a lot of times you have to work as a designer, especially if the company is small, they usually don't have a designer, so that work will go to the front-end developer. So I took part in that challenge as well, and I think that it helped me a little bit in my career as well. Okay, so I mentioned some other challenges as well, not only the 100 days of code, but also JavaScript 30 daily CSS images, 301 days of code, 30 days, 30 sites, daily UI, and more challenges. You can see everything in the images with the dates, when I started and when I finished those challenges. If you look on some dates, they are a bit weird. For example, the first one, it's in the 31st of December on 2016, which is the last day of the year. So maybe everyone the last day of the year are outside having fun with friends. But no, I was at home studying and making sure that I will hit my goals. Also, if you see some other dates are a bit weird, but like do what you want to do and start working on yourself when you really want to, independently of the date or the day. Now, another question that I get a lot is what inspires me or motivates, because I believe that I'm a person with a lot of energy and I always want to do something new or learn something new or, stuff like that. For me, the motivation is, and the dedication, because it's not only motivation, but for me, it's wanting to be better. And if you want to get better, you usually need some practice. But this is my motivation, but this doesn't mean that it will be the same for everyone. Maybe someone wants a better job, maybe someone wants a better future, maybe someone wants some extra money, so he has to work or she has to work and stuff like that. Motivation is one thing, but the most important thing is dedication. Be really, really dedicated to what you want to do and define your goals, work on that, and eventually you will get it. So after finishing the challenge, I had some interesting stuff. Like I learned better myself. I learned to be more optimistic and grateful for the things that I have done and for the people that I had near me, because it's not easy to say no to things. It's not easy to have to go outside, but say, no, I will stay home and I will study. It's not easy canceling things because you have to read. From the other hand, I also met a lot of people, most of them online, but some of them also in real life as well. I believe that I got better at time management, and I also traveled a lot, which is another passion of mine. My passions are around coding, design, and traveling. So traveling may seem a little bit unrelatable, but it's not, because as a developer, they may call you for a work somewhere abroad. They may call you somewhere for a conference. So that was also a big advantage for me. This is something personal. All right. right, now moving on with the second part, which is tips and techniques of habit formation. So moving on a little bit of my journey and going into habits and why we need the habits. All those challenges make me a little bit more dedicated to code and to try to work as hard as I can. And that was actually a habit. I started this habit at about 2017, and I still on 2021, I keep working on those things. Let's start with a quote that I really like, and it's coming from Art Williams. It says, "I'm not telling you it's going to be easy. I'm telling you it's going to be worth it." I'm not telling you that coding and studying is easy, but I'm telling you that it's going to be worth it. And I'm pretty sure about that. And I'm also sure that your mentors and your teachers can say the same thing. So, habits and how to form habits. The first thing that we have to realize here is that everyone feels resistance. Resistance will be always there, and it always tries to get you. Try to eat healthy, and there will always be a cookie near you. Try to do something good, and there will always be someone that it will like push you. There is always something there. But the first step is to realize that and again, try to move on, because there is always going to be resistance when you're trying to do something good. Some things that they can help you to bypass that step, the resistance, is setting limits. I know that it may sound weird, but bear with me. Don't spread your efforts around too much. Stick on one thing at a time and try for consistency over volume. It's better to have too much rather than too little. And what I mean by that is, for example, you have to build a big coding project. Don't let everything for the weekend, or don't let everything for a single day. If you have time, try to build slowly by slowly, like everything. Have a plan on your mind. Say that today I will work with a register, tomorrow I will work with the login, and the next day I will work with something else. Don't just let everything for the last moment. Continuing a little bit more, something else that can probably help you is tracking your progress visually. Always have a to-do list with you, and maybe this is a tip that you know or you had heard previously, like the to-do list, but really do that. I'm not saying that just to say it, it's because it will really help you. It will help you with time management, and being prepared in your projects better, and you will feel more achieved through the day. You will feel like you did something, you accomplished something, and it's not only on writing something and then deleting it, but it's also a visual thing. When you see something that it's complete, it helps your mentality. So it's a really good idea on keeping a to-do list, a calendar, or whatever. It doesn't have to do something fancy. Personally, I use just a pen and paper for my to-do list. You can do again whatever you like. Just try to implement that small step. Another really important thing is to stay away from toxic environments. If you see that something isn't working as it should be, like, leave it and try to focus on the positive things. I know it's not always easy. Actually, it's very hard. But if you want something, and again, if you really try for it, eventually you will get it. For example, and as I mentioned here, a different example, not a coding one, if you're dieting, don't keep cookies or don't keep like sweet things in your fridge. Try to have something a little bit more healthy. And from the other hand, if you are coding, try to make the process easy. So you want to get start coding. For example, have your password somewhere ready so you don't forget them every time, or have your softwares like ready and updated. So again, you don't miss time on doing these things. What we want to achieve is to make the unwanted behavior difficult to be performed, and the behavior that we want to achieve, we want to make that as easy as possible. So have everything ready when you're about to start, so it will run smoother for you. Okay, oh, and another important thing that I almost forgot, but I write it here, is a lot of times we get distracted from our phone or from our laptop. And the distractions are coming from notifications and stuff like that. You really don't need your phone when you're studying, and you really don't need all those notifications. So please do yourself a favor and have your phone on silent, and not only a silent, but keep it on another room. If someone like really wants you, he can call you or she can call you a little bit earlier or a little bit after. If you're living with your family or friends, or you are in a camp, let everyone know that you need that time. Maybe it's 30 minutes, maybe it's 1 hour, 2 hours. Let them know that you need that time in order to learn something and make something good for yourself. And I'm pretty sure that they will give you just like 30 minutes in a day. But that thing with the notifications and your phone is really important. So again, try to do that as well. Okay, moving on. The habit. So the habit has 3 parts. It's like an infinitive loop. The first thing that we want is the trigger. The trigger is that part that it's the cue. It will show you that you have to start doing something. For us, in our case, this is usually coding or learning. The next part is the routine, which is the actual habit, the thing that you will start doing something, and then it comes the reward. The reward is something like a prize. When you achieve something, when you achieve a small goal of yours, then you can reward yourself with something. This is something that it depends on you. Maybe you want something physical, or maybe not. It can be like really whatever. For example, if you're studying every day for 1 hour, then you can give yourself some time to watch TV or play a video game. But if you don't work for 1 hour, then maybe you can't watch TV or something. I don't know, this is just an example that I made right now. So maybe it's not the best one. Okay, we have quite a few more things. For example, one of those things, it's the bright line rules. In this case, that rule says that it's always better getting from something general to something specific. So if you have a big goal on your mind, try to subtask it. And the better you define your goals and the better the tasks that you have, the easiest is going to be to achieve it. And we also have the keystone habit, which says that one good action can lead to multiple good actions. And if you see that something is going well, why stopping it? Keep doing that and you will see more good things. Okay. Another thing is that a lot of people say that they don't have the time to do something, right? And I'm pretty sure that you also have said that. I know I'm guilty of saying that I don't have the time to do something. But we all have 24 hours. The thing is how we work in those 24 hours. We're not all of us like doing the same things. If you want to learn a lot of things and you feel like you don't have a lot of time, some things that they can help you are like being ruthless about what you want to do. Do you want to become a front-end developer? Okay, what do you need in order to do that? As we already discussed, we probably need HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, what's the next thing that you should do? It's probably start learning HTML. So focus only on that. Don't try to do everything at the same time. And if you are like in the final step of learning, for example, JavaScript, don't try to learn all the frameworks and the libraries at the same time. Again, focus on just one thing. Something else that can help you is changing only one or two things at a time and not try to change everything and constantly at the same time. This is something impossible. Um, Also, make those challenges and those changes so small that you cannot say no. If your goal is to learn for 1 hour every single day, this is probably something that you can achieve. If you make this goal a little bit smaller and make it for 30 minutes, this is probably something that you can work even easier. So this is something like really good. Maybe setting a small goal at first, and from there you can always build on. So if you see that you have like more time, you can go through that and maximize that time. Don't always think the best case scenario, but sometimes think the worst case scenario as well. So ask yourself, what will happen if I don't do that? What will change if I don't do that? Sometimes this also helps. Some other things that can help you and are about time are doing two opposite things at the same time. This is the yin-yang principle. If you want to learn like a lot of stuff about coding, as we already discussed, don't try to learn everything at the same time, but also don't try to learn two similar languages at the same time. For example, don't try to learn the same time JavaScript and Python, because these two things have a lot of similarities and your mind can't process these two things at the same time. But maybe you could go with JavaScript and cooking, or JavaScript and dancing, something else, something completely different. Another thing is the Pomodoro technique, and this is more about learning and about the time that you devote on learning. In this technique, some of you maybe are already familiar with that. It says that stay very, very, very focused for 20 or 25 minutes. And in this time slot, don't do anything else. Just be really focused on your learnings. And then take a short break. Usually it's for 5 minutes. And then repeat this cycle as many times as you can. So like 20 minutes going hard, and then 5 minute breaks, 20 minutes hard, 5 minutes break. And if you repeat this cycle a lot of times, you will see that it will probably help you on learning. Another thing is the Pareto's principle. This one is a little bit different. In this principle, it says that 80% of your output, it comes from the 20% of your input. If you also analyze that, you will see what it needs to be done and where your energy should go into. If you see that you did something and that something is really small, but it helped you and it gave like a big advantage in you or in your skills, in your career, then do that small thing. It will help you and it will show like all those advantages. Always analyze your day and try to learn through that. Another quote that I really like is part of the courage is simply consistency. Here I have some, let's say, tips that maybe are not so well known. A tip here is keeping a to-do list. We already talked about the to-do list, but what about the not to-do list? In this case, have a note to-do list, have a paper or an app, I don't know, whatever suits you, and write the things that you shouldn't do. I don't know what are these things. Maybe these things are not eating a cookie, not watching TV, not watching Netflix, not playing video games or something else. I don't know, this is something specifically for you. And keep that always in front of you so you know what you should do and what you shouldn't do. From the other hand, if you don't have something, try to imitate it. In my case, I didn't have like a lot of developer friends, but I wanted to have some developer friends because it would help me with my motivation. So something that I did was to try to find some communities it was like over the hands, for example, through Discord servers and Slack channels. And obviously you can do that through meetups and conferences as well. Usually all those things are free, so it's easy to do them. Another quote, great things in business are never done by one person, they are done by a team of people. If you can collaborate with someone, try to do that, because you will never be alone in a job, you will have a team. And here I also have like some other things. I will not go through details, but you can check them by yourself. And moving on to the third and last part of this session, it's dealing with frustration, dealing with stress, dealing with colleagues at work, and dealing with ourselves. Because sometimes the biggest thing that we have to go through is actually ourselves. This is the last quote, I promise. It's not the strongest of the species that survive, not the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. And keep that word responsive. This is like the most important thing, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of you already know that. So dealing with colleagues at work or dealing with other problems at work, think, is it only you that you have those problems, or is it like other people as well? Try to talk with someone. If it's not easy for you to talk with a colleague, try to talk with your boss. If this is harder to talk with your boss, maybe a good solution would be to track ex-employees through LinkedIn and try to talk with them, see if they had like similar problems, why did they leave the job, if they have a problem with their boss, with another colleague and stuff like that. They may help you at your work. If you see that things aren't going as they should go, leave toxic places at any cost. Your mental health is your first priority, or it must be your first priority. Sometimes people think that they are not smart enough, and this is a problem that not only young people have it, but also even more like experienced people face that issue. Something that may help you is knowing how other people started their careers. And for example, I just told you how I started, but you can search for stories of other people as well. Know that coding is hard, and if it was easy, everyone would do that. Don't compare yourself to others. I'm sure that you have heard that before, but try to do that. Not every one of us has the same experiences, so it's logical that we're not the same people. We will have different paths, different routes, and that's okay. When you are going to be hired in a job, or if you already have a job, know that probably that person that hired you, especially if it was your first job, didn't hire you because you have like the perfect skills. So don't always go for that. Don't always go for the perfect hard skills. Work also on soft skills. For example, communication is something really important. Being able to work at a team is something really important. Showing like good energy and good mentality is also something really important. So sometimes you not only have to work on your coding skills, but also on soft skills as well. Now, dealing with learning, a lot of people find it hard, or as we already talked about, a lot of people think that they don't have the time to learn something. The learning process is not easy, but some things that can help you is building projects. Project is more important than watching a tons of tutorials, because a hiring manager will want to see your portfolio, or what did you build, or what did you write. So this is way more important than saying, yeah, I watched that and that video tutorial. This is not enough. If you don't have experience, but you see that other people are asking for experience, try to fake it or imitate it. What I mean by that is volunteer your time on building something. Ask someone, a friend, a family member, or even like another person to build something for them. So you will gain some experience. Google for volunteer opportunities, Google for internships, you will find something. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that you will find something good. Also have an updated portfolio, or if you don't have a portfolio, try to build one. It's not an expensive procedure or process, but it is something that takes time. If you feel that you really don't have time, you can use GitHub as your portfolio. This is how I started, and there was not an issue with that. Also, because one of the hardest things is dealing with ourselves, don't judge yourself too hard. Everyone was a beginner, and everyone sometimes is still a beginner. It's okay to fail, and everyone fails. From time to time, it's okay to take a break. You don't always have to work super hard. And sometimes it's better to loosen up the rules rather than drop it completely. So if you see that something is very hard or something isn't going very well, just try to go a little bit slower and see how the things go. If it's something that it's complete out of you, then it's okay to drop out. And sometimes our goals change, so it's okay to change, obviously. Try, see what you can do, and then you can judge if it's something that you want to follow or not. Remember that we all stuck from time to time, so don't punish yourself. Also, don't act like there is something wrong with you, because there isn't. You are fabulous the way you are. So really, really don't judge yourself too hard. Even if you're coming from a different background, that's totally okay. That's totally fine. Use the skills that you have in that other background in your benefit. Try to find the advantages on your other things and try to implement them on your current path, on your current career. Last but not least, take care of yourself. Eat, sleep, take a shower, work out if you can, and things going to be all right. Okay, guys, that was it for me. I hope that you enjoyed this session. If you have like any questions, feel free to ask me either like right now. I would gladly answer things, or find me on my social media and you can ask me there as well.
Thank you very, very much, Eleftheria. That was a great presentation, also a really beautiful presentation. We have a couple of questions, so let me go through them. And we have an anonymous question. I'm pursuing electronics engineering. I want to learn front-end development. Should I first complete electronics engineering and then learn web development, or should I learn along with pursuing engineer? What do you think, Eleftheria?
Yes, I think that if you have time, which I hope that you have, and if you don't have, I hope that these tips will help have time. Try to do that in the same time, because you need practice. And practice needs also time. So that's why I would say try to do them simultaneously. But of course, don't drop your mechanical school or something like that.
Okay, and I'm just seeing now Ubaid Rehman. I'm sure if I'm pronouncing that was the person that asked the question. Feel free to drop your questions on the Q&A panel. I have a question while we wait for other people. Do you have any like favorite websites or suggested links where people can find resources or read technical articles? Do you have any favorite like places where you go each morning, as you said, and to read their tech articles?
Yeah. Yes. At the moment, I'm using Housenote. It's housenote.com. If you want, like, I can write that on the chat as well. It covers like pretty much everything. There are a lot of stuff for code newbies, and it is focused on coding. So it's not like other platforms that have other stuff. It's not like Medium that has other stuff and you can read a specific number of articles and then you have to pay. It's totally free. So I use that for reading. But if you're talking about coding, I would suggest Free Code Camp, because again, the variety and the things that you can build is very big. And you can find things about everything. So I guess this is like also like a nice thing to check.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Anna. We also have Anna thanking us, and Eleftheria for the useful webinar. Any other questions, please? We have, I don't know, just a couple of minutes, I guess. Stavroula has a question. Thank you for the presentation, Eleftheria. How did you decide to learn first Angular and not React, so AngularJS? Yep.
Yeah. When I started React and Vue were not so popular as it is today. We are talking about early 2017. So the other things were kind of popular, but not as much as AngularJS. So that's why I went with that. But keep in mind that back then, I really didn't have a lot of knowledge. So I really couldn't know what is better. But even if you asked me today that I believe I have some more knowledge, I cannot answer the question of which is the best framework or library. So if you want to learn something, Stavroula, I would say just learn something, focus on that one thing, but don't go blindly and say everywhere that this is the best thing, because I have seen like a ton of people doing that, and I don't think that it's something that we should do.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. Thank you. We have another question from the chat. So thank you for the precious information. I would like to ask if I'm working on Figma. I'm trying to learn very well. Actually, I'm really like to use it, Figma, and design some things. Which field will be good for working with Figma, front-end or something else? What would you suggest? I don't know if you are familiar with Figma, or you can.
Yes. Yeah, I am familiar with Figma, and I think that it's a great tool. It is mostly used by designers, so I would suggest you to take that path. If you like to design, you could be a designer. You don't have to be a front-end developer. And designers like are being asked worldwide. So I've seen many positions for designers. So you really don't have to go to coding if you like design. But from the other hand, if you want to combine these two things, coding and designing, I think this is also something really cool, because again, a lot of people that are asking for front-end developers, they also ask for a person that knows how to design. So I think that it's really cool that you already know Figma, because if you start checking for jobs, you will see that people look for both roles, for front-end developer and designers as well. So I think that this is something that can really help you.
That's great. Thank you very much. I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to exploit the absence of questions and ask one thing that stuck from your talk with me. Like you said that you decided to go with D3 as a visualization library, and it helped you land the job. So how exactly did D3 led to a job?
Okay, well, that's a really good question, actually. And it's like a little bit funny as well. I started learning D3GS through Free Code Camp. And I was building some, let's say, small projects. Every time that I was building a project, I was also creating a video tutorial on YouTube. So I was uploading all my projects as videos on YouTube, and they're still up on my channel. And someone saw those projects, and he probably understood that I know D3GS, and he had like a project for me, but it was like a real project. He was not from Greece, and he just saw that through my YouTube. I explained to that person that I haven't done any other job. I have never worked as a professional developer, but he trusted me because he wanted something similar as the things that I had done in the videos. So I guess that I was pretty lucky that someone saw the videos and trusted me to do the job. So that's the story.
Wow, that's
And this
that's
is all, yeah. This is also something that shows that it's good to show your work. So a small tip that I could give to young people out there is not being afraid their job. And you can do that by uploading your work in GitHub, in YouTube, as I did, or if you are working with social media, also like make a tweet, make an Instagram post, make something and show your work there. This is something that it really have helped me, not only YouTube, but social media, like they have helped me a lot.
that's great. That's inspiring, and that's a great story. Thank you very much. So I guess we can wrap up. I don't see any other questions. It was an awesome talk. Some really great tips. You need like quite some time to digest all this information, because all of them were like really helpful and really interesting, and really worth to taking the time and see how we can apply them on our daily lives. And it was also an uplifting talk, I might say. So like we want to thank you for being here with us. We want to thank all of the participants for being here and attending. So thank you, Eleftheria, and we make sure to follow Eleftheria and on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter. And we hope to see you soon and have you with us on another webinar.
Thank you very much. The pleasure was mine.
So have a nice day and see you soon. Bye, everyone. Bye, Eleftheria.
Thank you so much for sharing with us your knowledge. It was a pleasure to have you as part of the Hack the Tech Industry podcast. You can join our live event every last Wednesday of the month, remember, and check our social media to get to know more about our coming events.